Hello everyone, I'm Bradley and welcome to another episode of Project Unknown where we discuss the mysteries of this world and beyond. We are not experts, just two friends who love to discuss it. As the Olympic Games were cancelled this year, unfortunately, we are going to discuss a different version of games. We're going to talk about paranormal ones. So I'm going to pass over to my co-host Reanna to tell you what games we're going to be discussing about today.
All right, so before I say any of the games that we're discussing, disclaimer, do not do any of these. Do not try them. I can't stress that enough.
What? Why would you say not to do them?
Just no, don't play these games. I'm discussing these as an interested party. So the games that we're going to be discussing today is Bloody Mary. We've all heard of Bloody Mary. This is one of the most famous ones. Where they're going to be discussing Ouija boards, which is another really well-known one. The Elevator Game, 11 Mile Road, and Midnight Game.
All very famous amongst people who love mysteries and love the summoning and I guess the dark arts and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, these are a lot of these people might have heard before. I know there was one or two that I sort of only just heard about. But yeah, we're going to discuss these ones today, and at the end we're going to say which one believes if they're real, which one believes that they're not real.
Okay, spoiler alert, I'm the skeptic of the two, so you can make your own judgment about who's going to think what.
Oh really? You're the skeptic? I didn't know.
I thought after 4 or 5 episodes of this, you'd start getting the hint. Anyway, let's go into our first game. Which one was that?
So that is Bloody Mary.
Our very own summoning ritual. So let's talk about the origins of this first off before we get into how to play it. There's multiple different origins that can be described. What's a few of them?
So one of the origins is this was just an old folklore that way back when, it's a legend where young women would walk up a flight of stairs backwards, holding a candle and a hand mirror in a darkened house, and then what they do is they would gaze into the mirror and then see their future husband's face.
And if they didn't see their future husband's face?
They would see a skull or the Grim Reaper, which means that they would die before marriage. Fun game.
Okay, so you've already started walking up the staircase backwards in the dark with only a candle. I'm pretty sure you're going to see a skull no matter what if that's the case, because you're dying going up those stairs backwards.
Yeah, no, I would not be able to do that. I'd just trip.
I think most people would just trip because that is a dangerous game to play just as it is.
Yeah, so that's where one of the origins come from, which if you know the legend from today, it's a lot different to that.
Yeah, everybody talks about it as still with the mirror, there was the hand mirror, I guess, in the walking upstairs backwards, but it's completely changed from staircases and candles.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely not to see your future husband's face. At least I don't think it is anymore. It's mostly to see a probably creepy apparition of a girl who's said to claw your eyes out and things. So definitely different.
Well, that's always fun. That it might have just changed from females seeing their future husband to guys seeing their future wives.
Wow.
Was that too bad of a joke? I don't know where I'm going. I'm probably going to hell for that one. Okay, so you see Mary, I'm guessing. So who is Mary? Do we know any form of origin for this person?
For Mary, well, yeah, the Queen. That's literally where this origin comes from.
Just the Queen, the Mary.
No, Mary the. I think it was what was it?
Mary the First?
Mary the First, yeah.
Okay, so why was she Bloody Mary? Is there any information about why she became known as the demon that's in the mirror?
Oh, there was a whole bunch of different things. There was one thing that says she used to bathe in the blood of people to remain young. There was another thing saying she was practicing witchcraft. I feel like these are just a whole bunch of random rumors people have made up over the year that sort of made this game twisted in a way.
Going to that folklore element, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because what I've found, I guess, is not only was it possibly Mary, Queen of England, it was another girl by Mary Worth.
Oh yeah, I think I read into that.
She used to practice dark arts and stuff like that, so she got tortured and executed as being a witch, which I guess led to her being trapped in a mirror.
Yeah, and isn't the modern day version of that is that she died in a car crash?
Yeah, she died in a car crash and had her face hideously mutilated in the car crash. How can it, I guess, this mystery, this folklore, the rumors and that, how can it change so much between different decades and stuff like that? You think that Mary would be one singular person?
Yeah, I think we can thank the internet and media and all sorts for twisting and changing this folklore, because everyone's probably seen the episode in Supernatural supernatural with Bloody Mary. There's a whole bunch of like movies about Bloody Mary.
Well, when it comes to pop culture with it, like, yeah, as you said, there's the Supernatural episode, which was season 1, which was almost 15 years ago now. There was an episode of X-Files, which I'm sure you know about.
Yeah.
There was a movie that was part of the Urban Legends franchise. Even like Candyman, which is a complete ripoff of the Bloody Mary summoning, I guess, is like you say Candyman 5 times in a mirror.
Yeah, okay.
So it's so close to what we know as Bloody Mary today that pop culture has stolen, ripped it off, recreated it in so many different forms.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, like the summoning ritual, do you want to get into a little bit more about that?
Oh, in summoning Mary?
Yeah, I want to know, how can I make Mary appear?
Okay, don't do this. No one do this, but...
Okay, I'm going to say I've already done this
Of course you have.
Continue.
No, and like, you know, as a kid, I remember my friends doing this and me telling them not to, and like, nothing happened. Spoiler alert.
But as we've discussed before this podcast and stuff like that, is that Mary has been apparently told, like, even if you do the summoning ritual, she may or may not appear, which is such a throwaway excuse of, she didn't appear for you. She just doesn't like you.
She doesn't like you, sorry.
How bad would you feel if a demon just goes, oh, I don't want to kill that person?
Yeah, sorry, not you. I'll go on to the next person that summons me.
Yeah, exactly. It's insane that like a demon can be so selective of who they want to murder.
Yeah, well, basically how you summon her is you look at a mirror and you say her name 3 times, or 3 to 13 times as it states. Go crazy if you want.
Yeah, like just start shouting it as many times as you want, I guess, and you might summon them.
Yeah, so... That's pretty much it. That's Bloody Mary.
That's such an interesting thing because if I remember correctly, that's using a thing called catoptromancy, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is using mirrors as a way for a portal between paranormal beings and us.
So it almost gives them like a gateway.
Yeah, it begs the question of, if we go back to the folklore thing and they're using a hand mirror, if you say Bloody Mary into a hand mirror, how is she coming through that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's a tight squeeze.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, I think this one is just one of those ones that urban legend has been twisted. And, like, a lot of people that have claimed to see Mary or have said that it's worked, especially in modern times, there's actually a phenomenon that's explained why they could be seeing weird things, which is actually pretty cool.
Isn't that phenomenon known as trucklers fading?
Yeah, that's it. So it's like they're just looking into a mirror for so long. They're focusing on, like, one point that it's actually just making everything around them like slightly distorted, like almost melting and like almost like hallucinating, because you're in a dark room, your eyes are trying to adjust, you're thinking something scary is going to happen. So this could go back to what we were talking last episode about your brain like trying to show what you want to see. So yeah, there's a couple of reasons why just staring into a mirror in a dark room with only candles around you, you might see something weird.
Yeah, you might see something weird, but it's not coming through and trying to attack you.
No.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the repercussions of this. So if somebody were to go out and do this particular summoning ritual, what would happen to them? Like, you've heard the theories and stuff like that. What do you know would happen to somebody if they were to see Mary?
Well, that's the thing with media and everything now. There's so many different things. One of them's like she'll scratch your eyes out. Another one is she'll just follow you until you go insane and you'll keep seeing her on different surfaces. Like, there's so many different things. You'll just go to sleep and die. Like, there's a whole bunch of different things that could apparently happen.
So she's not the sort of person or sort of entity, I guess, that would just do one thing and is known to do just one thing. She's known to do many things to her many different victims.
Yeah.
I guess this goes down that route of, like, any of these paranormal games are very much for the thrill seekers, the ones that want to prove whether something's real or not, or see just like have that fear reaction of maybe this might happen to me.
Yeah, exactly. So in saying all of this, what do you think, Brad? Bloody Mary, is it real? Is it not?
Well, if it's real, I feel a little bit offended that when I did it, Mary didn't come at me.
Sorry, she didn't like your face, I guess.
That's really unfortunate. What about you?
So I don't know about, I believe in the folklore, obviously, like they probably thought that they would see their future husband. I don't think it worked. I don't know. This is a weird one. I don't actually think that it's a real thing. I don't think someone called Mary is going to like torture you until you die, or even saying the name in the mirror. But again, saying anything ritualistic is sort of asking for trouble.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're going to be summoning Mary, the first Queen of England, or whatever it is. This can open the realm of, like, with catoptromancy, like you're summoning just anything. You could be summoning any form of entity, not specifically a Mary, into our world.
Exactly, and that's what I think this is that, like, it doesn't matter what you're saying. If you're saying it with intent, if you're saying it ritualistically, then yeah, I feel like this is still a bad idea to do. I don't think it's going to summon a girl called Mary who wants to scratch her eyes out. I think it's just asking for trouble, which sort of almost leads us into the next thing we're going to talk about.
And what's the next thing we're going to talk about? Oh, before we go on, sorry.
Yeah.
So you're saying you do believe in this?
I believe that you're probably asking for trouble. I don't believe it'll work for everybody.
Okay. So let's just say at this stage, I'm a non-believer and you are a believer.
Yeah, I still say something could happen.
Okay. So let's move on. So what's the next one?
So the next one is a topic that I'm not too thrilled to talk about.
And I absolutely love.
Yeah, of course you do. Because I'm just going to say before we even start talking about this, I 100% believe in these. And this is Ouija boards.
Ouija boards being how you can talk to the dead. So with Ouija boards, before we go too far into it, straight out, Ouija board is a trademark of Hasbro, the toy company.
Yes, so it is a board game.
It technically is a board game that you can buy in any store. You can buy it online. You can literally get it as a toy, and it will be in the toy section. But you're afraid of this thing.
Because it's not the fact that this could be made out of plastic or cardboard or whatever it's made out of. You are still asking for something. This goes back to what I was just saying. You're
tempting fate.
Exactly. You're creating a way that anything could communicate with you, or you're pretty much saying, hey, just pop on through, it's totally fine, you can come into this house. You're asking for trouble if you use one of these. Doesn't matter what it is. Plastic, cardboard, whatever.
So with Ouija boards, like, even though it's a trademark name of Hasbro, it's passed down trademarks from person to person to person. It's been trademarked for last century, I believe.
Yeah, no, it like started in 1891 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny though, because even though something can be trademarked, it doesn't mean that thing was originally built by the original trademarkee. Ouija boards are actually known as either spirit boards or talking boards as well, and that's what they were before they became the Ouija board. And before anybody asks, Ouija is not a combination of yes in two different languages of French and German. That's not a thing. It's just a scary name that somebody came up with.
Yeah, it's just something some dude made up to be like, this will sell board games.
Exactly. So it's funny that it's sold as a toy, and even though it was actually used as a communicative device for talking to the dead.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you use a Ouija board.
Okay.
I'm sure you've never used one before.
No, never. And
you're never going to use one.
No, I'm never ever going to touch a Ouija board.
I personally have been in the presence of a Ouija board or a spirit board before, but I've never actually used it. I've never been a part of the summoning or talking ritual that you can have with a person that's passed or demon or entity or anything like that. I've never actually done that myself. So how would you say use one?
Okay, so obviously, it's a board, whether it be plastic or whatever. It has the alphabet on it. It's got a yes and a no and a hello and a goodbye written on it. That's it. That's all you need to have a Ouija board. And then you need a little thing called a planchet, which is just like it's a piece of plastic in the board game. It's like a little triangle device. Everyone puts their hands on it, and basically the spirit or the demon or whoever you're trying to communicate with is going to move the planchet to, you know, if you ask it a question, if you say hello, and you can have a conversation with someone trying to come through and talk. Yeah, the thing about Ouija boards is, though, I'm just going to say this really quickly. If you use one, say goodbye, because if you don't say goodbye and it doesn't say goodbye, you're, again, leaving that door open for something to walk through. If
you were to use it. So you're saying that, like, whether it's a ghost or a demon or whatever, no matter what, if you do not say goodbye, that thing will stick around.
Yeah, which is not always good, because if you're using a Ouija board to talk to, you know, a deceased loved one or something like that, things that come through aren't always what they seem, and things can lie. And yeah, I know I might sound a little crazy talking about this, but I believe very strongly in these, and I just think that you shouldn't mess around with something that could, potentially let a demon just hang out in your house.
You say that you might sound crazy during this. We're making a mystery podcast. I don't think anyone.
It's true.
I don't think anybody can sound crazy here.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
With Ouija boards, and how would you say describe, like, would you question a certain person? Like, do you summon a certain person trying to get that thing, or do you just talk to whatever's in the room?
It really depends what you're trying to do. Like, when I have seen people use Ouija boards before. When I've seen people using Ouija boards, it's more of a like, hey, is anyone around? Sort of like you're just checking if anything is present, and if it is, it'll move the planchette. You could try saying someone's name, all sorts of stuff like that. And which brings us to something we'll talk about in a later podcast, I'm sure, which is the demon that is attached to Ouija boards, apparently.
Which goes by the name of what?
Why do you have to make me say it? Everyone has probably heard of it. It's actually pretty big on the internet, which is Zozo.
Okay, so the reason that Reanna was so hesitant about saying the word Zozo is apparently that you can summon it via a Ouija board, and it is attached to that as the myth goes. But apparently there's things out there that state that even saying its name can apparently summon it. Now, that makes me believe that it's kind of an odd one if it's apparently attached to Ouija boards, because if it should only be attached to Ouija boards. It shouldn't just be able to be summoned any way possible.
Yeah, it's sort of like, powers in a name sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess, well, we've discussed before, like, tulpas and stuff like that, which can somehow, like, the power of imagination actually create the entity itself. So I guess in the sense of that, if you believe in Ouija board demons and Zozo and all that sort of stuff, saying its name, I guess, is enough to bring that entity to life.
Yeah, exactly.
There are different variants of this sort of talking ritual that you can have with entities or anything like that. Like, you've got auto writing, which is another form of, like, a different form of the same thing, which is talking to the dead by having your pencil out and allowing the spirit to talk through you. And then you've also got, like, auto drawing, which is the same thing, which you draw out an image after you've asked a question. And then you've got dowsing rods, which is another thing that allows you to communicate, but that's just a yes and no sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it makes me question, like, what makes Ouija boards so special? Like, what about them makes it so much more a place in, I guess, society as a pop culture item?
Well, I honestly think it's just because since the 1800s, it has been just sold freely. Like, they're not hard to find. Like you were saying before, they're easy to find. There's so many movies with Ouija boards that I can't even begin a list.
I guess there's even the movies that are just called Ouija.
There's just ones called Ouija. There's a movie called Zozo. Like, there's so many different types of media out there that tells you and shows you how to use a Ouija board. So, of course, people are going to go out and try it because they're easily to come by.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, like, comparatively, like, you don't see dowsing rods all that often in material, unless it comes to, like, the Warrens or something like that, which we'll talk about at a much later date.
Yeah. So I think just because it is easily accessible, like, I remember back in high school, some friends made a Ouija board just on a piece of paper.
As you do.
Like, because, you write out the alphabet, you have all those things there that you need, and yeah, done. You made a Ouija board.
Were they able to talk to anyone?
I don't really know. I sort of stuck around for a little bit and I was sort of like, okay, I'm out of here. But
I'm done here.
But afterwards they did say that they managed to talk to something, whether or not they really did or not, who knows? Because then there's a whole thing with the Ouija board, because you and so many people, depending how many are around the board, have your hands on this planchette that, someone could just be moving it for fun.
Well, I guess when it comes to the use of it, like, you're allowing the entity to use you guys as, like, whoever's got their hands on the planchette to talk. I guess it goes back to what we were talking about with, like, I guess the Truxler's effect and all that sort of stuff, is that your mind can play such tricks on you that, let's say this thing isn't real, you're so into using this thing that without realizing you're starting to push the planchette around.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is the possibility that it's not actually a spirit or a demon, it's...
No, and I feel like that probably happens a lot. But I will say that I do believe these work, and I do believe these are real. But then I also believe that some people could just be, playing a joke on their friends, or even think that something is moving and it's not, like you were saying. And also, if you are using a Ouija board, do not take your hand off the planchette either, because then that's also you're sort of breaking the ritual before it's done.
There's so many rules to this thing.
Yeah, no, there's a lot.
Okay, so we're talking about rules. What's the repercussions of a Ouija board? What's the bad effects that could possibly happen if you were to break the rule of taking your hands off, or you don't say goodbye? What can possibly happen to the people using it?
Well, it could be that you're talking to something like a malevolent spirit or a demon, and you have broken that connection to them, and now they're just like, oh, sweet, free pass, and they're going to haunt your house. So, like, things like that. You've opened a gateway, which is you doing the ritual of, talking to a spirit and touching the Ouija board, and then you're breaking that ritual and almost like leaving that door open.
So allowing that entity or another form of entity to travel between the two planes of existence.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you are to use a Ouija board, the issues are you're allowing an entity to attach itself either to you or the house that you're in.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's interesting. So when it comes to that, I guess, like, as we were saying, it's been in so many different pop cultures and stuff like that, that I guess if it were to be real, why haven't we seen or heard of a lot more spirits and entities existing, I guess, in our world?
Well, I guess this could go back to the whole do ghosts exist argument, which is so many people claim that ghosts do exist, so many people claim that they don't. Where is our proper evidence? Where is videos? Where is people claim to see all these things? Like, we're in the age of media and internet, and like, why isn't there more solid proof?
I guess that comes with cryptids and everything, though. Like, there's
exactly.
no real solid proof on any of the mysteries that we're talking about.
Exactly, which I don't know. Like, a lot of people, and I've spoken to people that have had experiences with Ouija boards, negative ones, and like, they're telling me this story, and I believe them. They look they were terrified of what happened. Like, I've spoken to people, and I 100% believe what they've told me. So, it's sort of the same thing when someone tells you a ghost story. You choose to believe it or you choose to not.
Yeah, exactly. And like, as you said, like, even I've had family members who have used Ouija boards before and 100% say that things happened and things went afterward.
Yeah. Yeah, so
yeah, I guess that's the issue. You really have to, it comes down to whether you believe it or not, and then whether you're willing to risk it if you do believe it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just going to say, please don't go out and use Ouija board, everyone. Don't do that.
Okay, so on this one, you're a true believer. There's no
oh yeah,
bringing you around to the other side. It's just you're a believer.
Yeah.
Well, with how much and how strong you feel about this is one of those ones that I'm not going to say I believe in it, because I, as being a skeptic with so many things, I do very much err on the side of caution and think that maybe it's not, and maybe it is the brain playing tricks on it and on you and stuff like that, the psychology aspect of it. But there are a lot of, I guess, people who confirm that things can happen and all that. So I do err towards the side of this being a possibility, there actually being a way that we can communicate, maybe not to ghosts or anything like that, whether ghosts are real or not, but whether you're talking to an entity from just a different plane of existence, something that's beyond our realm of knowledge.
Okay, so you're sort of almost on the fence about this one?
Sort of, but I'd probably fall more towards your side of believing.
Yeah.
Just the fact that there is the possibility that I have seen things beyond my sense of reality. So the fact that this has got some people who have, I guess, actual stories about it happening, makes me go, okay, maybe there is a real life thing to this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, the fact that this goes down to 1 to 2, that on believing it, let's go to our third one. What's our third game that we shouldn't participate in?
The elevator game.
This game is, I guess, very famous for one particular case.
Yeah. So the elevator game is basically a ritual that is meant to bring you to another world, which is, what this is meant to do. It originated in Japan and South Korea, actually. But the famous case that you're referencing is that of Elisa Lam, which was a very unfortunate case in 2013 in California. 21-year-old was staying at the Cecil Hotel, and they had gone missing. No one had seen them for a while. They found her body in the water tank of the hotel.
And the fact that this is so closely related to the elevator game is the fact that the video footage of her that was found before she disappeared was her pressing all these different buttons in a different order on an elevator, going to specific floors and then leaving the elevator and not being seen again.
Yeah. So
that's why it's related, I guess, so heavily to the elevator.
Yeah, so there are obviously a lot of other theories around this very mysterious death. And there's a lot of information on this if anyone's interested. I do recommend looking it up. It is quite interesting. But it is, the footage is a bit creepy, to say the least. And it definitely does look like... A little bit nerve-wracking, yeah. Yeah, it definitely does look like the game that is mentioned. It's a bit weird.
Okay, well, let's talk about the game. What sort of things do you have to do to get to this other world, this scary plane, I guess?
So this game you can play by yourself or you can play with other people. It's basically you just have to go into a public building that has at least 10 floors and get in an elevator. Now, there's a whole bunch of steps to this. There's a bunch. There's like...
Yeah, we won't get into all the different steps and all that, but pretty much you have to go to certain floors at certain times.
Yep, and then the part when I was reading this a couple years ago or something, and I was sort of reading it like, oh yeah, this just seems a bit silly. And then it gets to step 7, and it's like, if a woman enters the elevator at the 5th floor, do not look at her, do not speak, and don't talk to her. I was like, oh, okay, I don't like this anymore.
Imagine you're playing the game and then somebody does walk in and you're just like,
no.
You're not a woman.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do it. So I read that and I was like, okay, I'm never trying this game.
I'd probably play this one just to see if there is another world, because I guess teleporting to different planes of existence and stuff like that does interest me.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, so pretty much it's just like you do not interact with that woman, and then eventually you'll hit the 10th floor, I think it is.
Yeah, it's the 10th floor, and it says, leave and do not respond to the woman if she asks where you're going.
And that's when you're in a different plane. Like, this is a different world, different everything.
Yep, you're in the other world now. And it's just like, if you're alone, you are in the other world. Electronics will not work. It's identical to our world, but all the lights are off, and you'll be able to see a red cross in the distance out of the windows. Like, that's terrifying. I don't want to play this game.
It pretty much sounds like if you go outside during coronavirus.
Yeah, maybe if we play that,
just everyone's
the elevator
gone.
Game, we'll go back to how life was.
Maybe that's what happened. Someone is just playing with something beyond our knowledge, and then we're just like, yeah, they screwed it up for everyone.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. So it definitely doesn't sound fun. And then there's like a whole nother thing about how you get back to our world.
Which is like following steps 2 through 8 and then hoping that it takes you down to floor 1.
Yeah, this is a very intricate sort of one.
As discussed, like at the end, we'll throw everything out there, but all the games that we're playing be in the description down below for anybody to check them out if they do want to look a little bit more into it.
Yeah, just look into it. That's all you're going to do. Don't do these things. These are silly.
As Reanna says, always be smart and don't do these things.
Yeah, exactly. That's my tagline.
So a few different like additional notes on, I guess, the actual steps to it that I've found out about is that once you enter this plane of existence or this scary other world that you only see like a red cross outside the windows and all that sort of stuff, is that once you're there, you may find it hard to find the elevator back, which sounds just like daunting as it is. You finally get to this other world and you're like, but what if I can't find my way back?
Yeah.
And then you may pass out and find yourself in your bed, and then you have to check out the world around you to make sure that you're actually back to your real life and not still stuck in the other world. There are so many variables to once you enter this other world trying to get back. So play at your own risk, I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't like the sound of this game. It just doesn't sound nice. And the fact that it's been linked to, well, this is just people guessing and wondering that this could be linked to Elisa Lam because of the footage, and she does look like she's talking to someone outside of the elevator. Like, this was a girl who was, 21 years old, didn't have history of anything else except for a mild bipolar disorder, and in the video it looks like she's definitely talking to someone. She's pressing a whole bunch of buttons, like she's just acting really like she's not in her right mind.
But this is where I want to start going down, I guess, the most famous case, which is the Elisa Lam incident, which is we're talking about the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah, can we do an episode on that at some point?
We'll probably go into it a little bit later on.
Okay.
For the simple fact that the Cecil Hotel itself is one of the most haunted buildings in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's actually known as the last place that the Black Dahlia was seen before she was murdered.
Yep.
Which is one of the most famous murder cases of all time, I would say, which is the Black Dahlia murder.
And mysteries, because they never found out who did it.
Exactly. So it's very interesting that this hotel was already known for so many incidents in that beforehand that this happened. So whether the elevator game is what caused her to disappear and all that sort of stuff, that's where it can possibly go either way.
Yeah, no.
So when it comes to the elevator game, because I do want to get to our last two games as we're starting to get close to the end, do you believe in this one or not?
You know what? I actually don't think I do.
This one you don't believe in?
No, even though this one scares me to, think about these things happening, I actually don't know if I fully believe in this one. I think what I do believe is that this could be, again, you're doing something ritualistic. You might just be summoning a ghost and something like that. But I don't think you would actually be able to get to another world by doing this.
Is it specifically the other world aspect of it that's kind of throwing you?
Yeah, I think that's what's throwing me off.
So is there any particular, and we'll get into it a little bit later as well, do you believe that there's any form of these sort of rituals, these games that you would say would actually take you to another world, or is it just specifically the aspect of going from one plane of existence to another that's probably where you start erring on the side of not believing?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe this game's going to take you to another plane of existence. I believe that this game may hinder your mind in a way, like maybe it's a ritual sort of like that, but I don't believe that you are going physically to another plane of existence.
Interesting. It's great to hear that you're a little bit skeptic on the case of that sort of thing. Like, you're not going to believe every single bit that comes down to a mystery. You're not always erring on the side of paranormal and all that sort of stuff. That gives me a little bit more credence that when we're discussing these sort of things, that you're allowing yourself to have that skeptic mind as well.
Yeah, and I could have been like, yes, I 100% believe in this. It was aliens or whatever, whatever else.
Of course it was aliens.
But
it was the Yeti.
I do, even though in a lot of our episodes, I'm like, it was this, it was that. I have these crazy ideas that I definitely do. I think about these things, whether I think that they are real or if they're not. And yeah, this is one of the ones that I thought about, and this is one of the ones where I'm like, no, I'm going to be a skeptic on this.
Okay, that's fair. This is one of the few times that you and I will agree on the skeptic side of it, because I 100% don't believe that this is the reason that she disappeared or it works in any form. Even though I love the idea of going from one plane to another, the whole idea of taking an elevator to a different world doesn't make sense to me. You're in a building's elevator. It's not going to take you to another world if you press a few different buttons in a certain order. No,
exactly. And this is a creepy game. This would make for a fantastic movie. And there is one that's almost based on this, but it's a really good read, but I agree with you.
Wow. That's interesting to see you agree with me for
once.
Okay, so let's go to game 4. This is one that I read into a little bit more about, I guess, than you, which is the 11 Mile Road. Clearly, it's not an Australian game. It's not something that we would normally play here because it's called the 11 Mile Road, whereas we do kilometers. But this is a wish-granting ritual, which is different from all the others, which is, we've talked about spirits, we talked about demons, we talked about summoning. This one's all about going through a whole trial of things.
Which is weird.
So you can get your wish granted at the end, but you have to do it alone. This is where it starts going down that creepypasta sort of side of things, that you have to do it by yourself, and you have to find a road which apparently doesn't exist.
Okay.
How much do you know about this?
I know a little bit. I remember reading it about it a while ago, and it does get creepy. It definitely gets creepy at a point where I was like, oh, okay, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, I guess what makes it up, and I'll talk about how you do it. So basically, to do this, you have to be in any form of vehicle. It's recommended that you be in a car to keep yourself safer. Then you have to go into forest roads, and then you have to allow yourself to guide, you have to just take random roads and to guide yourself to this famous thing called the 11-mile road, which isn't on any maps. And then once you're there, this is the only time you can take a break is at the very beginning. And then each mile, things get crazier and crazier until you hit the end, which will allow you to have a wish and then it will come true.
Okay.
Which I guess is crazy. It's definitely crazy. And reading it, it gets weirder and weirder as it goes. So the first 2 miles, nothing really happens. And then on the 3rd mile, you start seeing weird shapes near you, and then on the 4th mile, like, you start hearing whispers. As you go forward, you start feeling a presence inside your car, and then you start hearing screams, and then eventually, like, your car will stall, but then you have to restart your car. You're not allowed to ever get out of your car, and it gets more and more progressively creepy as you go. And I guess it's a trial of, will you go through all these things to get your wish granted?
Yeah, no, I don't like the sound of having a presence in your car screaming at you.
It's an interesting one. There's a few things that they talk about, which is, there's like warnings, I guess, that they say, which is, do not interact with anything, whether it be in the backseat of your car, whether it be something outside. Like if you see a certain person that's got like their leg broken on the side of the road, don't stop for them.
Oh.
Because it's an entity trying to trick you to get out of your car.
Oh no, I don't like the sound of that.
You don't ever stop your car. If your car stalls, try it, like, you just close your eyes and you have to restart the car.
Yeah.
Then you're also not allowed to listen to music or the radio or anything during this entire trip.
Oh, that's boring.
It's boring, but I guess your ears are filled with the amazing sounds of screams and whispers. You don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah, what more could you want on a drive down a creepy road in the middle of the woods at nighttime?
Yeah, so when you get to, this is where it starts getting a little bit crazy and a little bit outside of my realm of believability, which is, at the end you shut your eyes and you really wish for something, and then somehow you get transported back to the beginning of the road.
Oh, okay.
As if your trip never happens. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a trip.
That sounds like you've taken LSD before you got into this car.
Yeah, right? No, that's odd.
Like, that's one of the more mainstream theories. The other one is that, like, if you wish on something, like, if it's small enough that you can find it in your pocket, if it's too big, it'll be in the trunk. If it's immaterial, you can drive home and you'll eventually get it. So if you wish for someone to love you, then, like, they'll love you afterwards.
Oh, okay. This is weird.
It's very odd, and it goes down that route of, you start summoning more so an entity to grant your wishes. It's more about, I guess, not so much the trip. It's more about going through the trials to get to that end entity that will do something for you.
So you're just summoning something that's going to grant you a wish, basically.
Pretty much. And on the side of repercussions, like, they talk about it, that if you do successfully go down this road, you get your wish granted, but then you might have some PTSD from all the screaming.
Okay, fun.
And they talk about at the very last mile, you get screamed at, you get cursed at, you literally can be on the brink of madness, but then somehow if you get past that, you're fine.
Oh, yeah, sounds like a fun game.
The one thing that they say is that if you're fine with all this, then go ahead, try it. The issue is that there is a possibility that an entity can follow you afterwards.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the one thing that, if we talk about, I guess, the Ouija board, and you summon something and then you don't say goodbye and it's still there, it can still hurt you.
Yeah, okay, so same sort of deal.
Same sort of deal. So if we're talking about this game, I guess, in the sense of more of a summoning ritual instead of a wish-granting ritual, there is the possibility of an entity being still attached to you.
Okay.
This is one of those theories and the mysteries and all that I'm like, it sounds crazy, but there's no way to prove whether it is or not.
Yeah, like, unless you're doing this, you're not going to be able to, like, what I've seen online is that there's not a lot of people saying they've done this either.
Yeah, it's one of those weird games that isn't done much because it's almost impossible to find this road that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And when I say it doesn't exist, I mean it doesn't exist on any map. It's not something that you can just find via Googling it.
Yeah, okay.
So where would you sit on something like this? Is, if you're thinking of it more as, like, I guess, a summoning ritual, is there a possibility that this is real?
Well, I don't know about this one, because if it was me in my car alone at night, knowing that something was going to happen, this sort of plays into the whole, your brain makes you see what you think you're going to see. So, like, I might look in the rearview mirror and I could see something that looks like someone sitting in the back seat because I've been driving by myself for ages. Like, this could be one of those.
Yeah, okay, so you're thinking that it could be one of those aspects where it's literally just your brain making things up.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if this whole wish thing is going to work, but, you know, you may do this and hear the screams and see shadows on the side of the road because, again, it's dark. Your eyes are trying to adjust. You're by yourself. You're expecting something to happen. This could play into the whole, your brain is playing tricks on you. But then again, like I said with anything else, you're doing something in a ritualistic manner. You could probably conjure something.
Yeah, I guess so. If you were to give a yes or no thing to whether this is real or not, I guess, what would you say?
I would probably say no. I don't think doing this is going to grant you a wish.
But would you believe that this could possibly summon an entity?
I don't know. This is a hard one for me because it does have ritualistic behavior. I don't know if it does. Do you know what? I'm just going to say no. I don't think this one's real.
Okay, so this is number 2 on the ones that we agree on.
Yeah.
When it comes to these paranormal games, it sounds very much like you definitely err towards the side of skepticism for the simple fact that there isn't enough proof, I guess, on these ones.
Yeah, no, I'll probably say because there isn't lots of proof, and a lot of these just sound like, you know, someone just wrote up to sound scary. Like, it's definitely scary. These are very cool. I enjoy reading them, but I don't think this one's real. But in saying that, I still don't want anyone to try any of these games because doing any of this stuff is probably not going to be good again for your brain. You're going to see stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm probably going to say that this one is not real.
Yeah, okay.
Just for the simple fact that there isn't any proof.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's come forward going, I got my wish granted. And it's like, well, what? No, you just worked hard. What? Or you just bought that at the store. Don't try and lie to us. That sort of thing. So there's no proof to say that this is real. And there's even in pop culture, it's not really all that famous for the simple fact that there isn't enough history to it.
No, there's not enough for this. And yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So we're at a stage where we're 1 to 2. So I only believe in one of these 4 that we've talked about so far, and you only believe in 2 of them. As we've started getting towards the end, I'm going to probably wrap us up there, which means that we're probably going to do a second part of this at some stage.
Yeah, because there are quite a few more out there, and I know there's a couple more that I believe in much more strongly than the last 2 we spoke about. So
yeah, exactly. So I would definitely like to do a part 2 on this, and we definitely will at some stage. So I'm going to wrap us up there. As always, like all the information that we find and stuff like that will be in the description down below. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's listened.
And always remember to keep searching for the unknown.